Alright, Shalom Hebrews. This Israel been Israel for the Israelite Brotherhood. And what I want to show is how world history in the history that we know is off because of one event that happened in history that wasn't recorded. You know, the Israelite history that is out today and that the world accept as Israelite history is incorrect because it's an event that happened in history that wasn't purposely recorded. And this history was purposely left out so that the people that left it out can be seen or be recognized as the Israelites. It's something real tricky and low down that went down. You know, these people were scribes already, and they didn't continue their tradition when this event happened. You know, this junk, it's messed up because, the world been looking at the Israelite history and things that concern the Israelites through the image of these people that didn't record the event that took place in history. And I'm going to show you how, it's hidden history of the Hebrew Israelites and how the world has been deceived on who the Israelites are, and I got the proof. I got the proof. And this should change people's outlook on the people that's called African Americans or the descendants, the Negroes, the blacks from the transatlantic slave trade. This should give a new perspective on them in your mind when you understand this. Okay, during the Babylonian War, it basically go back a little farther back, but during the Babylonian Wars, the Israelite nation ran into Africa and said that they wasn't going to do the covenant no more. And that wasn't recorded. That wasn't recorded in world history. And, the people who the Hebrews abandoned their heritage to were scribes from Babylon. And they didn't record the Hebrews going into Africa to live and stay, and they could have easily recorded it because they translated the Bible into all the different languages, and then they translate what one would call Hebrew and give it all its meanings and so forth. And they've been the main translators of Hebrew history. It's like the world been thinking that the Israelites been translating their own history and writing their own history through the Jews or the people that's recognized as Jews. And then that's false history. That's false history. The people that's recognized as Jews are not the Hebrew Israelites in the Bible. They ain't the Hebrew Israelites in the Bible. This is a message from the Israelite Brotherhood. Okay, the people who call themselves Jews are them people right there. You know what I'm saying? You see that? Ashkenazi equals Scythian in history. The Scythians is the code name for Ashkenazi, and they hid Ashkenazi history under the name Scythian. But if you type in Scythian, it's gonna tell you that they Ashkenazi. They ain't really just been trying to hide it. They just ain't been saying that Ashkenazi is the Scythians. They leave it up to you to put that, together and stuff. And most people don't make the connection and stuff, and they think that Ashkenazi was always just Ashkenazi. But the Assyrians and the Babylonians, they had Ashkenazi name, and it's close to what it was called, Ashkenazi. But in history, Ashkenazi are called Scythians, and that's how they distance themselves. That's how they distance Ashkenazi from the Scythians, is when they start calling Ashkenazi Scythians. They had an Ashkenazi history, because you would, while you're reading about the Scythians, you wouldn't think that you're reading about Ashkenazi. Well, Ashkenazi made up the Chaldean nation, made up the Chaldean army, and they was part of the people that went and destroyed Assyria. Okay, the other people, the main group of people, the people who left real Israelite history out and didn't write what happened during the Babylon, even though they translated the Bible, they didn't write what happened during the Babylonian wars. They didn't write what happened after we abandoned our heritage to them. You know, when the Hebrews abandoned their heritage to the Sephardic groups, to the Sephardims were Babylonian scribes for thousands of years. They are responsible for Western civilization. Their history is deep. I got a lot of videos explaining how that they ain't nothing but slick Amorites. You know, the Sephardims ain't nothing but Amorites, and the Amorites are the founders of Babylon, and how that during the Assyrian times, those people was placed in Samaria, and how during the Babylonian wars, like 134 years after they was placed in 722 BC and 588 BC, the whole Hebrew nation said that they wasn't going to do the covenant no more. All the tribes. And we all ran into Africa. And those people didn't record it. You know, it's like somebody having $1 million in a suitcase. And the other people know that it's $1 million in their suitcase, and the other people run off and leave it. And those people didn't holler and say, hey, you left your $1 million in the suitcase. You know, they didn't do that. You know, that's like with world history. They've been recording Israelite history, and they didn't say, well, the Israelites ran into Africa during the Babylonian wars, and they never returned. You know, they never come back home. You know, they didn't write that, because then people would automatically start searching for the Israelites in Africa and understand that Africa was the place where the Israelites, you know, was last seen. You know, and it's like, you know, when they say Shahar and when we say Egypt, you know, we must recognize that Egypt is part of the Sahara. Egypt is part of the Sahara. Egypt is part of the Sahara. You cannot take Egypt out of the Sahara, and you cannot take the Sahara away from Egypt. And the Sahara is where we lived at when we ran from the Promised Land into Africa to worship their religion. You know, that's like I said, you know, they didn't record this in history. And nobody want to talk about this. And this has been one of the best kept secrets in history. And it's like the people, the Jewish groups that's responsible for media for all these years, having all the presses and the publications and the publishing houses for hundreds of years in the Western Hemisphere. If they left that information out and didn't record it in the BC days, and it wasn't recorded in the AD days, then, you know what I'm saying, in the early AD days, then it ain't, you know what I'm saying, recorded now. And it's been one of the best kept secrets. It's been one of the best kept secrets, and a lot of myths was created off this history that was left out. You know, it's like the people that left this history out did it on purpose. You know, it's a lot went on in history, and them people has had a glorious rule since the Israelites abandoned their heritage to them. This been the best thing ever happened to them, is when the Hebrews abandoned their history to the Sephardic groups, and the Sephardic groups didn't record it. See, the Hebrews didn't want to record it because we thought that what we was doing was right. So we didn't have no reason to record it. And then we didn't record our activities after we broke the covenant and went into Africa because we abandoned the covenant. We said we didn't want to do what Moses gave us, and that it was too hard, and that it was better for us when we was doing the Egyptian religion. So them folks, that we abandoned our heritage to, they kind of like said, yeah, good riddance, and they knew that the curses was gonna come down on us because they are a group of people that's been dealing with the Creator's wrath for a long time, and it's like when they got our heritage that they kind of like gave them a break. You see, our ancestors, when we come out of Egypt going into the promised land, and the Creator gave us that new covenant, our whole essence was to destroy the culture from the Nile all the way to the Euphrates. We were supposed to destroy the culture from the Nile all the way to the Euphrates, and we didn't do that. And that caused our destruction because we didn't follow the will of the Creator and the culture and the goals that He had set out for us during our Exodus. And it's recorded in detail. It's recorded in detail. That was like, man, around about 1800 to when we came into Egypt to 46, what I'm saying, around about them time when we Exodus, that was our Exodus with Prophet Moses. And we didn't, follow the law, when we come out. And our goal and our orders was to destroy the Canaanite culture. And the Canaanite culture went from Egypt all the way to Mesopotamia. And that's like now, if you look at the YouTube videos and the history that they trying to push the Babylonian, the Anunnaki history and stuff like that. And this is what I want the Hebrews to starting to get caught up in that Babylonian history and believe that the Babylonian gods, Anili, Anuki, and all them folks, the Gilgamesh and all them was some kind of related to the Bible and us. I'm going to show you that that's wrong, because Prophet Abraham was around those parts and he was told to leave, and he didn't believe in the Babylonian gods. Prophet Abraham didn't believe in the Babylonian gods, so they must have not been real. The Mesopotamian gods, he didn't believe in them, so they must have not been real and stuff. So he come on towards the way Africa way that the Creator told him. And it's like in other videos I show that the Chaldees, that Chaldea in its beginning were created by the Assyrians, that the Assyrians founded Chaldea, and how that the people from the Caucasus Mountains came down out the Caucasus Mountain and started to take over, and they took over Chaldea. They kicked it in Assyria and stuff. But this is where the Nephilims and the folks with no pigmentation come from, up in them parts. Okay, Hebrews, I want to show how it's hidden history. How it's a hidden history with the folks that recorded history didn't record the Hebrews going into Africa during the Babylonian Wars, all the tribes, and how they didn't record the tribes going into Africa, throw the whole world history off because of the false history that they created, the myths that's been created since the Hebrews abandoned their heritage, been governing the world. And you have people from all nations, especially the people from Europe and Britain. I'm going to show that the English folks, the Queen of England, and all them folks, ain't none of them Hebrew Israelites. Like they try to claim a Hebrew Israelite heritage off the Assyrian captivity. It's a lot of people try to claim an Israelite heritage off the Assyrian captivity, and that is false history. I got proof that that's false history and stuff, and that all of the false history gonna come about because of the hidden history. And like I say, You know, we Hebrews didn't record our history when we went into Africa to break the covenant. The book of Jeremiah gonna be the last recorded history dealing with that. And nobody never record what happened to the Israelites that went into Africa to do the Egyptian religion, you know, to do the African religion. They was promised to get taken to all lands. You know, that's like, you know, I done debated a couple of Jews who try to say, well, the book of Jeremiah say that all those who go into Egypt was going to get destroyed and so forth and die. And yes, that happened. You know what I'm saying? That happened to us, and how that the ones that went into Egypt never came back to the promised land. Never came back to the promised land. See, the people that translated our history try to twist words up, you see, and that's what they've been doing for the longest, because they are scribes from Babylon. You know, it's like the people, the Sephardims, the Sephardi Jews are from Sippar. They are from Sippar, and they are Babylonian scribes, and they are responsible for Babylon's whole history. They are from this place right here, Sippar, and they had another city called Nippur, and you couldn't be a king nowhere in Mesopotamia unless you got your kingship from here. And this is where they held all the archives, the books for the whole Babylonian history. The people that we abandoned our heritage to, the Sephardi Jews, whose name is Sippar, Sephardim, before they was placed in Samaria, they were scribes in Babylon, and they was responsible for Babylon history for thousands of years. Now that's real deep. Now these folks, now our history wasn't nothing but for about 812 years, 800 years at the most, from the time that we abandoned Exodus, Egypt, to the time that we abandoned the covenant was about 800 years. You know, from 1375 when we started to come into the land, and then to around about 588 BC. You know what I'm saying? That's how long, about 800 years we stayed in the promised land before we was driven off. Where these people from Babylon, the Sephardims, they're responsible for Babylon history for thousands of years. Its governments, its administration, and its schools, its colleges, every aspect of government and governance that you have today come from them and go all the way back to Babylon. Even though they incorporated some Egyptian culture into it, but we basically function on the Babylonian system, capitalism, and how they keep lawyers and trade and everything. Well, those people created all that, all your colleges and institutions of learning, your meanings of words, and everything, your dictionaries, your encyclopedias. They set the foundation of that long time ago, thousands of years in Babylon, when they recorded world history at one time. World history basically been in their hand for thousands of years, since the Tower of Babel. They go all the way back. They're gonna be the only people. They're gonna be the only people that go all the way back to the Tower of Babel. The Sephardims. The Sephardims. And Sephardim is the Hebrew word for Sephardi. Sephardic and Sephardim. Those are the people that we abandoned our heritage to in the book of Jeremiah during the Babylonian Wars, and they didn't record what happened to the Hebrews in Africa. They kind of couldn't, because they couldn't come in there and follow us. You know, they didn't follow us. They was real smart. They didn't follow us to destruction. It's how they got our heritage. And I'm going to show this, you know. I'm going to show this, and then I'm going to go off, you know what I'm saying, a little biblical history. I'm going to show a little biblical history with some dates and timeline and stuff, you know. But that's like when we went into Africa during the Babylonian Wars. When we went into Africa during the Babylonian Wars. When we went into Africa during the Babylonian Wars, around by 588 BC till the book to Malachi, you know what I'm saying, 420 BC is 168 years. And then, us being in Africa in the book of Jeremiah, saying that we wasn't going to do the covenant from 588 BC till the Greeks show up is 330, you know what I'm saying, in 332 BC is 256 years we was in Africa. The people that said that they was going into Africa to do the Egyptian religion and how it was easier for us. You see, it's a lot went on, Hebrews, it's a lot went on, and I explained in those other videos, how the Egyptians had to do trade on the other side of the promised land, and us having that covenant, and how Pharaoh peaked all the way back in Joseph times, how the Creator was with us and that we was the children of Israel. And the Egyptians tried to preserve their evil, wicked system. It's like that they was like saying, since that they didn't have the real Creator, that they was going to destroy us because we had it and they didn't have it, which would have showed that the Egyptian gods was worthless, even though now they trying to connect the Egyptian gods to science and things out of this earth and this planet that ain't nothing but that old Babylonian space age culture religion that they trying to put on the people, because the Babylonian scribes, the Sepharvims, control Egypt. And when I say control Egypt, they don't have to control a nation outright anymore. They don't have to Sepharvim be their president no more. They control the companies through trade and finances. They control the whole Egypt through the banking system and through the military. It's like if the Sepharvims or the Ashkenazis wanted Egypt, them Edomites destroyed. All they got to do is tell the beast, the United States, to do it, and it's over with for them. You see what I'm saying? So, they power go way back into the founding of America and stuff, and they've been having the power to destroy nations because they have the enslaved Hebrews inside the nation serving the sinners that they done created all the obstacles. Like I say, we dealing with people that's been governing, having institutions for thousands of years, and they done dealt with hundreds of tribes. All the tribes in the Bible, they done manipulated or had some kind of dealing with them, and that's why come they created that Semitic term, because Semitic mean mix, half and half, and they've been trying to get everybody to mix, especially us Hebrews. They've been trying to mix us, and that's one of their main agendas, is to get you to mix, because then they can control you then, and then you be done throwed away your culture and your heritage, and it's like you forever locked into the wickedness in the culture that they created. Them folks deep. You know what I'm saying? It's like all the sin can be traced back to them. You know what I'm saying? All the sin can be traced back to them because they've been governing the Western world since the Tower of Babel. Since the Tower of Babel. You see what I'm saying? And they've been a continuous stroke of wickedness on the world since then. It's like our culture that the Creator gave us exiting Egypt put a pause on them for a minute. They had a little pause where they couldn't do too much of nothing, and it looked like their civilization and culture was finna be over with. And that was during King David time. King David passed. Solomon was supposed to keep the light going, and Solomon failed. They got to Solomon and turned him out. You know what I'm saying? And we stayed on the Egyptian religion, and them folks, the Babylonian Canaanite culture for 300 years till King Josiah cleaned it up. And then after King Josiah cleaned it up around about 621 BC, then, the Egyptians killed him and put us back on the Egyptian religion, and we go into Africa and leave everything to those Babylonian scribes. And then those Babylonian scribes concealed what happened to the real Hebrews and our faith, because we went into Africa and then they created false history. And that's the false history that you got today. You know, I say them folks deep, man. They're responsible for the whole Western civilization, and they can kick back in the dark and do it and not be seen as the people who created that, because they've been doing it so long. You see what I'm saying? Okay, let's put some biblical history on this here. And this how I want to show that the Hebrews, that during during the Assyrian captivity, during our so-called Assyrian troubles, how we Hebrews were still at home and how it never was any lost tribes. See, this will show that the history that them people been presenting about the Israelites is wrong, and how it's been a hidden history of the Hebrew Israelites. You see, it's been a hidden history of the Hebrew Israelites, because when we abandoned our heritage to them folks, we said that we didn't want nothing to do with the covenant no more. You know what I'm saying? And that allowed them folks to construct some false history. And then, you know, that's what happened. Okay, this is what I want to show Hebrews. I want to show how we was tricked early in the days. And I'm going to go back dealing with, you know, Joseph. And then I'm going to jump into showing them folks, those folks, and then I'm going to show how we abandoned the covenant and went into Africa. I'm going to try to do this all connected together, but I got plenty of videos covering this, all aspect of it. All you got to do is the Israelite Brotherhood channel, and it's important that Hebrews tell other Hebrews to watch and listen to them videos. I listen to them videos all day, and you know, I'm steady learning. You know what I'm saying? Even from the videos that I put out, it's like the creator putting a little history in me and bringing it out for the people. All right, if you go to all right, if you go to Genesis 41:40. This is after Pharaoh and the scene that Joseph got the creator with him. Joseph now answered Pharaoh's dreams and predicted what would happen from Pharaoh's dream. And Pharaoh, hurry up and get him Asenath, the priest of own daughter. And that was a slick move when he did that. And he did that on purpose, because, you know, he seen that his Egyptian system wasn't no good. So he planted a seed, you know, and Joseph, you know what I'm saying, had two sons by Asenath. You know, this is the priest of own daughter. And Helapolis is going to be where they brung them obelisks from, you know, after, you know, Joseph passed away and so forth, and time went on. And then, you know, that Egyptian ruler from Upper Egypt come on. See, we was cool with the Egyptians from Lower Egypt. You know, the Egyptians from Lower Egypt controlled the Sahara, and controlled the Sahara and what's called West Africa, Libya, and Lower Libya. They got baby pyramids in Lower Libya. The Mishwish tribes, you know, they try to give a history to the Berbers and try to say that the Berbers were them, and they try to cover Hebrew history up inside of Africa with Berber history. And Berbers were related to the barbarian Amorite tribes that had sailed from Turkey and from, you know, them parts up north that couldn't just sail directly into Egypt. You know, it was like a death sentence. So they sailed to the Libya and then hung around on the coast of Libya and stuff. And then they would go inside of Africa and cause all kind of trouble. Well, they give the good parts of African history in North Africa to them folks. You know what I'm saying? To the Berbers and stuff. You know, they real dirty and low down like that, because they've been giving our history away to everybody. You know what I'm saying? It's like they gave some of our history to the Ethiopians by saying that the Ethiopians had the Ark of the Covenant. And I can show how that was impossible, because a prophecy king King Josiah had the ark around 621 BC. And you know, so that showed that the Ethiopians never had an ark because they supposed to have got it during Solomon time around about 40 BC, around about that time and stuff. So them folks telling a lie, and I'ma show and squeeze that in too. Okay, when Joseph, we was dealing with the Egyptians from Upper Egypt. You know, he gave Joseph Asenath, and Asenath, you know, gonna have those two sons, Manasseh and Ephraim, and this the big trick Hebrews. They've been using that DNA stuff and try to say, y'all West Africans, and y'all from West Africa because you got West African DNA and all that old crazy mess. Well, we're going to have some West African DNA is because the West Africans, people from Egypt, lived all the way in Libya and all them parts. You know, the lower Egyptians are West Africans. You know what I'm saying? And they constitute a whole bunch of these people from the west of Africa. Well, we was mixed with them. We was mixed with them when Joseph had the two sons, Manasseh and Ephraim, and then when that mixed multitude of Egyptians left with us. So we gonna have some West African DNA. You know, they've been trying to say who a Hebrew is by DNA, and I can show that that's false because the Creator said that the prophets' bones in the promised land in Judah would be destroyed, and that's basically where everybody was buried at. So, you know, them bones would be destroyed and thrown out, you see. And then it's a known fact that they don't have no DNA from Prophet Abraham, Prophet Isaac, Prophet Jacob, or Prophet Moses, or none of the sons. They ain't have none of their bones. They ain't got none of their bones. So they can't never say what a Hebrew is. They can only go by the prophecies in the history in the Tanakh. You know, the Tanakh history, what they call the Old Testament, will lead you to the Hebrews, as I'm finna show that it's been hidden history and that those folks didn't record us going into Africa. Throw the whole history off. The whole world history is off on the Hebrews history is because this one event wasn't recorded. So you don't get the whole history of what happened to the Hebrews if you left this out. And I show that we went into Africa to worship the Egyptian religion and never returned after the Babylonians were defeated. When the Babylonians were defeated by the Persians, and the Babylonians held Egypt for about 60 years till the Persians took it from them. You see what I'm saying? So, you know, Nebuchadnezzar and the Babylonians held Egypt. So when us Hebrews went into Africa to live, we never come back home after the Babylonians were defeated by the Persians in 538 BC. And the exiles, that 1% come home from Babylon, and we didn't come out of Africa to be reunited with them. And you have the book of Ezra, Nehemiah, Haggai, Zechariah, and Malachi. Those 5 prophets covered the exiles that come from Babylon in 538 BC. And they didn't record the Queen of Heaven worshipers coming out of Africa to be reunited with them. That's us. We are them. You see, and this stopped the people from saying that we ain't Hebrews, because this been hidden history. You know, the Jews purposely left this history out. They could have wrote that the Hebrews went into Africa and that's where everybody should spend their time looking for them, because they didn't want us to be reunited with the promised land. Because after us breaking the covenant and then them Amorite Sephardims being placed back in Samaria, it's like they was getting their homeland back from us. So you know that they ain't finna say that the Hebrews went into Africa to live. You know, that's like I say, I'm gonna go try to get this history in. Joseph was given the priest of On daughter, and then she have 2 sons. And unto Joseph was born 2 sons before the year of famine came, which Asenath the daughter of Potiphar, priest of On, bare unto him. And Joseph called the name of the firstborn Manasseh, for Yah said, He hath made me forget all my toil and all my father's house. And the name of the second called he Ephraim, for Yah hath caused me to be fruitful in the land of my affliction. Okay, it's a known fact that Ephraim is the youngest tribe. Ephraim is the youngest tribe, and you know that the granddaddy, Potipari, he the priest of On. That's a serious religious system. That's the founding Egyptian religion system. For all this religious culture come from On, the priest of On. That's where it originally come from. And those are the folks that built the temples, the pyramids, everything associated with them was the people from Upper Egypt that we was associated with. You see what I'm saying? And so, you know, he gonna tell Joseph Ephraim, while Joseph gone, that hey, the Egyptian way, and put that Egyptian culture on the tribe of Ephraim. You see what I'm saying? Because I could show in the Tanakh where the prophet Ezekiel say that it was the Egyptian culture that bust us open. You know, but it's gonna be the tribe of Ephraim that's really affected by the Egyptian culture, as can be seen when Solomon chased Jeroboam into Egypt. Jeroboam was from the tribe of Ephraim, and Jeroboam was being chased to his relatives, Shawshank and them. They was from Upper Egypt. Those were Mishwish folks. Those was folks from West Africa. You see what I'm saying? And then when Solomon died, Jeroboam come out of Egypt with those 2 golden calves, which symbolize about 5 Egyptian religion. What the cross is to Christianity and all its branches, Catholic, Buddha, Baptist, Protestant, and all that. Well, that's what that golden calf was to the Egyptian religion that we embrace, the Queen of Heaven. You see what I'm saying? Hathor, the golden calf. You know, it's about 5 or 6 religions, Isis, horse, and all that old mess tied up in it. And how that was put on the tribe of Ephraim, as can be seen when Jeroboam come out of Egypt and put it on the tribes, and it stayed on us for 200, man, for about 300 years it stayed on us. Man, about 300 years. Man, about 300 years it stayed on us. Hey, but I'm doing a video. Hey. Man, about 300 years, man, it stayed on us. And we didn't get a chance to get free of that stuff till King Josiah was born, which he was a prophecy king. And then you know what I'm saying, he got rid of the Egyptian religion, cleaned the whole northern kingdom up and the whole Israel. And then the Egyptians come out and killed him. And then we went into Africa because they put us on the Egyptian religion. Okay. You see, Potipari, Joseph, you know, Potipari gave Joseph, the priest of On, daughter, and they had 2 sons, Manasseh and Ephraim. All right, so we know that we got some Egyptian, West African DNA right there. West African DNA right there. And then, as you look, when we exodus Egypt with Prophet Moses, when we exited Egypt with Prophet Moses, that some Egyptians left with us. In a mixed multitude, this is Exodus 12:38. And a mixed multitude went up also with them, flocks and herds, even very much cattle. All right, so very much cattle, and a mixed multitude gonna be the Egyptians that lead with us. And this how you know that them folks was with us and had an influence on us, is because when Prophet Moses go up to get the law, and then the more wicked Egyptians gonna think he probably ain't coming back. They gonna say, hey, let's do the Egyptian worship. And then this when the people said, and when the people saw that this is Exodus 32, this is gonna be that mixed multitude that left with us, that's influencing us. And when the people saw that Moses delayed to come down out of the mount, the people gathered themselves together unto Aaron and said unto him, Up, make us gods which shall go before us. For as for this Moses, the man that brought us up out of the land of Egypt, we want not what is become of him. And Aaron said unto them, Break off the golden earring, and all the people brake off all the golden earrings which were in their ears, and brought them unto Aaron. And he received them at their hand, and fashioned it with a graven tool. And after he had made it of molten calf, and they said, These be the gods, O Israel, which brought thee up out of the land of Egypt. You see, that's Pharaoh stuff working right there. You know, the seed that he planted when he gave Joseph Asenath. And then when them upper Egyptians come on and chase the lower Egyptians out of power in us, and then they exodus with us. You see, they influencing us right there. You see what I'm saying? They influencing us right there. Okay? And then you'll see throughout the history, you know, how Solomon had an Egyptian wife, you know, after King David, you know, we stayed in bondages in the book of Judges. In the book of Judges, after we exodus Egypt, and then we go, you know what I'm saying, start going into the promised land after Moses passed. Then Joshua come on, and around about 1375 BC, we started to come into the land, and that was at the end of Joshua. And then we start going into bondages, all kind of bondages, and that's what Judges is about. And it even show how the tribe of Benjamin, the youngest, you know, tribe, how they got turned out by the Amorites. You know, the Amorites turned them out. You know, the Amorites gonna be the people that's responsible for Sodom and Gomorrah, that's responsible for the gay agenda that's here today, that stretched all the way from Sodom and Gomorrah all the way to Mesopotamia. They had a ritual prostitution, male ritual prostitution, where males will sell themselves to anybody and anything. They didn't care for some money, and that's where their gayness come from. Where they turned the tribe of Benjamin out, and we almost put the whole tribe of Benjamin lights out because of that. And I got a video going into that. How them Amorite folks, the same people that's in control of our heritage, turned the tribe of Benjamin out and pushed that a gay agenda. How they doing the same as they doing now today in the rap community and in our community, and how they use us in our struggle to advance the agendas that they have planned to destroy everybody. They destroying the whole world off the agendas that they so-called created for us. You know, that's like doing the civil rights era, you know, and how we strived and so-called, you know, that was directed. The civil rights era was directed by those folks. You know, Martin Luther King was a puppet, and we lost every business and every sense of independence that we had since the civil rights era. You know, Martin Luther King was tricked, and them folks, you know, the same people that's been tricking us and been giving us these names, blacks, Negroes, African Americans, are the same Babylonian scribes that created the whole Western civilization, are the same people that pushing that gay stuff on us and then pushing it in the media on the rest of the world. You see what I'm saying? Because if we accept it and that is cool, then it become accepted in the world. You see what I'm saying? And because our culture transcends color barriers and color lines, and they know that, and that we are the creators of culture itself, and that we always create new culture because we come from, the Creator gave us the power to create a new culture when he gave us that new culture coming from Moses. It's like we have the originator to create new things and stuff, and they ain't been stopped creating new things since the Creator gave us the covenant, or gave us his blessings and blessed Abraham's seed. You know what I'm saying? Everything come from us just about in this Western hemisphere too, and how those folks done took our inventions and stuff and turned it against us. All right, them folks are the same people that's responsible for that gay stuff that's running rapid in the community and stuff, because they make it seem like it's all right to be wicked and evil like that. You see what I'm saying? To be evil and wicked like that. Well, those gonna be the same people that we abandon our heritage to. And like I say, that judges, we was all messed up. They had turned the tribe of Benjamin out, and then we got some relief with a prophet Samuel. When Samuel come on, this was around about 1100 BC. We started to get right and start to follow the covenant and do the things we supposed to. And then Saul come on. And then we started to get the land and get the momentum to do what we were supposed to do. And then King David come on. King David said it right. That's why the Creator loved King David. And we would follow the covenant and we would do what we were supposed to. And them people was waiting like some vultures. And then when King David died, and then Solomon come on, it was downhill from then on out. Solomon destroyed the whole Hebrew people when he left the covenant and started serving them other folks. You know, them other folks quick to put their women on you. And that's what they did to King Solomon. They put their women on them, and the women destroyed them. That's like I say that, you know, also the Egyptians had to come across the promised land and do trade with Mesopotamia, and we had broke the chain, and they couldn't connect, so they had to destroy us, and they destroyed us, and that allowed that Babylonian Egyptian system to flourish as it's flourishing today. Okay, let me show how Jeroboam was from the tribe of Ephraim. How Jeroboam was from the tribe of Ephraim, and how Solomon chased him there, to after King David passed away. Solomon chased Jeroboam into Egypt, and this Jeroboam relatives, you know, on the throne, the people from Lower Egypt is controlling. All right, and Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, an Ephrathite of Zerubbabel, Solomon's servant, whose mother's name was Zur, a widow woman, even he lifted up his hand against the king. You see what I'm saying? So, and Solomon sought therefore to kill Jeroboam. And Jeroboam arose and fled into Egypt unto Shoshan, king of Egypt, and was in Egypt until the death of Solomon. You know, and then that's when Jeroboam come out with them 2 golden calves. You know, after Solomon's death, you see what I'm saying? And then he gonna come out with them 2 golden calves and put it on the northern kingdom. You know, that's after the kingdom split. The Creator gave Jeroboam the 10 tribes. All right, whereupon the king took counsel and made 2 calves of gold, and said unto them, it is too much for you to go up to Jerusalem. Behold thy gods, O Israel, which brought thee up out of the land of Egypt. You see, so, you know, he put the Egyptian religion on us, you know, and then that Egyptian religion would stay on us for 300 years till King Josiah was born. And here the prophecy for King Josiah. This is in 931 BC. And behold, there come a man of Yah out of Judah by the word of the Elohim unto Bethel. And Jeroboam stood by the altar to burn incense. And he cried against the altar the words of the Elohim, and said, O altar, altar, this said the Elohim, behold, a child shall be born unto the house of David, Josiah by name, and upon thee shall he offer the priests of the high place that burn incense upon thee, and men's bones shall be burnt upon thee. And King Josiah did that. And I can also show that King Josiah had the ark. He was the Messiah. All the prophecies concerning a Messiah, a leader coming to redeem the house of Israel from the land of Judah, from King David, is going to be Josiah. From all the way from Isaiah and all the prophets from the time of 931 BC all the way down to it happened, till he was born. All those prophecies concern him. And they took those prophecies and attributed them to a demigod, the demigod Jesus. You know what I'm saying? All right. So Jeroboam brought them 2 golden calves out on us, put them 2 golden calves on us, and then that stayed on us all the way to King Josiah was born. All right, but the Creator would send the Assyrians to get us for that, and we would have troubles the whole time that we was on the Egyptian religion. We would have troubles, and to not record that, well, during the time that we was on the Egyptian religion, because we stayed on it from 931 BC all the way down to King Josiah cleaned it up and around about 621 BC, when he cleaned it up, around about 300 some years we was on it, and then the Egyptians killed him, and then we go back to Egyptian religion. You see what I'm saying? So we went into Africa after that, and we was enslaved. And these are the people that during the Assyrian times, that the Creator sent the Assyrians at us, and then they took 3 tribes away. And then these folks, the Sephardims, would create a 10 lost tribe myth. You know what I'm saying? Off that. You know, and the king of Assyria brought men from Babylon and from Cuddar and from Ava and from Hamath and from Sephardim and placed them in the cities of Samaria instead the children of Israel, and they possessed Samaria and dwelt in the cities thereof. You know, those people right there was in our heritage in 722 BC. That's the Sephardi folks. That's the Sephardi groups. They was in our land in 722 BC. So if they in our land in 722 BC, if they in our land in 722 BC and stay there and then don't never go nowhere, then we abandon our heritage to them. We will be abandoning our heritage to them when we go into Africa for the Egyptian religion. When we go into Africa for the Egyptian religion, we will be abandoning our heritage to them. To those folks right there. I mean, to them people right there. We will be abandoning our heritage to them. In the Sephardim, that's the Hebrew word for Sephardi. If you type that in today, they're going to change it one day because they know we own to them now. And that is over with. And that we know how they got our heritage. You see what I'm saying? So, you know, the word Sephardim translated to Sephardi. Sephardic and Sephardim. You know, those are the people that was placed in our land in 722 BC. In 722 BC, they was placed in our land, and they wasn't driven out, and we didn't drive them out because we was on Egyptian religion. You see what I'm saying? We was on Egyptian religion. And then I'm going to show you how them folks come to the Passover dinner and how you know that they was doing our heritage. If you go to King Hezekiah 30, and then this get rid of that 10 lost tribe myth here too. King Hezekiah chapter 30. This is going to be in 715 BC. This is 7 years after those folks was placed in Samaria by the kings of Assyria, them Sephardims, that they come to Passover dinner. You know, if you go to 2 Chronicles chapter 30, verse 25, and all the congregation of Judah with the priests and the Levites and all the congregation that come out of Israel and the strangers that come out of Israel that dwell in Judah rejoice. You see, so them strangers, that's going to be them folks coming doing our heritage. You see what I'm saying? And then as you read in 2 Kings 17:24, you'll see that them folks was doing our heritage when they first got there. So they feared the Elohim and made unto themselves of the lowest of them priests of the high places, which sacrificed for them in the houses of the high places. They feared the Elohim and served their own gods after the manner of the nations whom they carried away. You see what I'm saying? Them folks was doing our heritage, and then when you get over here and keep reading it all the way down, so these nations feared the Elohim and served their graven images, both their children and their children's children, as they did their fathers, so do they unto this day. That's the same as them folks is today with that Kabbalah stuff, with that Babylonian tradition mixed in with our heritage. Because when we abandoned our heritage to them, they were still doing their Babylonian stuff, and that ain't never changed. And that's that stuff that you get today. You see what I'm saying? That's why the Jews are responsible for the Babylonian system that's been set up. You see what I'm saying? Because they still do they traditions that they did before they got our heritage. You see what I'm saying? And them getting our heritage caused them to rule the whole world just about. You know what I'm saying? Because they also got us in bondage, and them other nations couldn't do nothing, but them nations can do something now. because the Creator gonna free us. All right, but you see how them folks come to the Passover dinner under King Hezekiah. And then this here King Hezekiah is a 10 lost tribe myth killer, because you will see after the Assyrian captivity that the Hebrews were still there. You see what I'm saying? Now, we know that the Assyrians controlled Babylon, and that they took Manasseh, his son, to Babylon, and he got released. You know what I'm saying? And come back home. You see what I'm saying? And then his son, Amon, he didn't live long, and then he got killed. And it's a miracle that King Josiah was able to get put on a throne as a little baby and stuff. Anybody could have been king. But that prophecy go all the way back to Jeroboam. You see what I'm saying? That I just read about King Josiah, 931 BC. All right. And Hezekiah sent Hezekiah sent to all Israel and Judah, and wrote letters unto Ephraim and Manasseh. They let you know it wasn't no 10 lost tribes. This let you know that them folks that's been lying and saying that they Hebrews only was able to do that because our history was hidden and nobody recorded what actually happened to the Hebrews. You see what I'm saying? All right. This is a message from the Israelite Brotherhood. All right. And the king had taken counsel, and his princes and all the congregation in Jerusalem, to keep the Passover in the 2nd month, for they could not keep it at that time, because the priests had not sanctified themselves sufficiently, neither had the people gathered themselves together to Jerusalem. And all the things pleased the king and all the congregation, so they established a decree to make proclamation throughout all Israel, from Beersheba even to Dan, that they should come keep the Passover unto the Elohim Yah of Israel at Jerusalem, for they had not done it of a long time in such sort as it was written. So the post went with the letters from the king and his princes throughout all Israel and Judah, according to the commandment of the king, saying, Ye children of Israel, turn again unto the Elohim of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, and he will return to the remain of you that are escaped out of the hands of the king of Assyria. You see what I'm saying? And then as you read down, he go down to name some of the tribes. All the tribes that's still there. You see? That's, you know what I'm saying? So the post passed from city to city through the country of Ephraim, Manasseh, even unto Zebulun, but they laughed them to scorn and mocked them. Now, he already said that he sent a letter from Beersheba even to Dan. Beersheba even to Dan. Let's look at this here. From Beersheba even to Dan. Alright, ain't got that long. Alright. Look, from Beersheba, right there. Beersheba, and he sent the letter all the way, man, to Dan, that they should come to the house of the Passover. And this is 715 BC. So all the tribes still there. And as you read over, you know what I'm saying, to keep reading the verse of Asher, Manasseh, Zebulun, you know what I'm saying, they humbled themselves and they come to the Passover. And then as you read, keep on reading, for a multitude of the people, even Manasseh and Ishkar and Zebulun had not cleansed themselves. See, they all come to the Passover, and then those Sephardims come to the Passover too, to kick it and eat. And it's like the Amorites was being slick reunited with their land when we allowed them to come to the Passover. So them folks was doing our heritage. And when we ran into Africa in the book of Jeremiah, they didn't record that. That's like when you get over to King Josiah. This is King Hezekiah's great-grandson. All the tribes not mentioned then gonna be mentioned during King Hezekiah, King Josiah's time. You see, so did they in the cities of Manasseh, Ephraim, Simon, even unto Naphtali with their mattucks round about. Those gonna be the tribes that wasn't mentioned during King Hezekiah days, gonna be around during King Josiah days. And you will see that he cleaned up the whole Israel. And Josiah was 8 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned in Jerusalem 130 years. And he did that which was right in the sight of the Elohim, and walked in the ways of David his father, and declined neither to the right hand nor to the left. For in the 8th year of his reign, while he was yet young, he began to seek after David his father,
David his father, and in the 12th year he began to purge Judah and Jerusalem from the high places and the groves and carved images and the molten images, and they break them down, the altars of Balaam and his presence, and the images that were on high above them. He cut down in the groves of the carved places, and the molten images he brake in pieces and made dust of them, and stowed it upon the graves of them that had sacrifice upon them. And he burnt the bones of the priests from their altars, and cleansed Judah and Jerusalem. So did he in the cities of Manasseh, Ephraim, Simon, and Naphtali with their mattocks round about. And when he began to break down the altars and the groves, and had beaten the graven images into powder, he cut down all the idols throughout all the land of Israel, and returned to Jerusalem. So King Josiah was there, and this was after the Assyrian captivity. This was after the Syrian captivity, and the Hebrews were still in the land. So it's been some hidden history. See, they ain't never showed that the Hebrews was there after the Assyrian captivity, as I just did. Now, during the Babylonian captivity, because the Egyptians come out and killed King Josiah, we was free of Egyptian worship for 30 years. All praise be Almighty Yah. We was free of Egyptian worship for 30 years, and then the Egyptians killed King Josiah, and then they put us back on the Egyptian religion, and then that's what the book of Jeremiah is about. And then you will see, after them folks was sent, the chasers up off the land, and this is what we said going into Egypt. And it come to pass that when Jeremiah had made an end of speaking unto all the people, all the words of the Elohim their Yah, for which the Elohim their Yah had sent him to even all these words. Then spake Azariah the son of Hoshea, and Johan the son of Ker, and all the proud men, saying unto Jeremiah, Thou speakest falsely. The Elohim our Yah had not sent thee to say, Go not into the land of Egypt to sojourn there. But Barash the son of Ner setteth thee on edge against us, for to deliver us into the hand of the Chaldeans, that they might put us to death and carry us away captive into Babylon. You see what I'm saying? So we wasn't trying to go to Babylon. We was on the Egyptian religion, and we said that we was going into Egypt to worship their religion, and that's where we was going to stay. And that caused our enslavement, and the people that we abandoned our heritage to, the Babylonian scribes, didn't record it. So that throw the whole world history off. The world history is incorrect today dealing with the Israelites, because the true history wasn't recorded of what happened to the Israelites during the Babylonian wars. All right, if you go to Jeremiah 44, verse 15, Then all the men which knew that their wives had burned incense unto other gods, and all the women that stood by a great multitude, even all the people that dwell in the land of Egypt and Pathros, answered Jeremiah, saying, As for the word that thou hast spoken unto us in the name of the Elohim, we would not hearken unto thee, but we will certainly do so whatever thing go forth out of our own mouth, to burn incense unto the Queen of heaven, and to pour out drink offerings unto her, as we have done, we and our fathers, our kings, our princes, in the cities of Judah and in the streets of Jerusalem. For then had we plenty of food, and were well, and saw no evil. But since we left off to burn incense unto the Queen of heaven, and to pour out drink offerings unto her, we have wanted all things, and have been consumed by sword and by famine. You see, that caused our enslavement, and we never come back out of Africa. We never came back up out of Africa after running into Egypt to live there. And like I say, Egypt is the Sahara, and the Sahara is Egypt. You can't take Egypt out of the Sahara. And when the Babylonian was defeated and the exiles come home, that's gonna be Ezra, Haggai, Zechariah, the sister Esther, Nehemiah, Malachi. Them books show that the people that went into Africa to worship the Egyptian religion never come back home. Never come back home. They never came back out of Africa to be reunited. You know what I'm saying? With the Hebrews that come back from the Babylonian War. And here's a picture of King Josiah. He killed King Josiah. That's Necho. Necho killed King Josiah, and King Josiah is the prophet king that freed us from the Egyptian religion. And then the Egyptians would kill him. That's his statue. And then that's that statue of that obelisk right there. That obelisk was used during our enslavement. It was erected at the beginning of our enslavement in Egypt. And that's in New York. And that statue of Necho is in New York. So, this is an Egyptian system. But like I said, that us saying that we was going into Egypt to live and to stay there was a state of mind. When we see that all our food and our health and our prosperity came from us being in Egypt or on the Egyptian religion, then you know what I'm saying, it was over with. We broke the covenant. And it was over with. And the Creator cast us out. This, all right, so let me show you about that one myth. I did mention about King Josiah having that ark, and that the Ethiopians didn't have that ark. And this is in 621 BC. This is 300 years after Solomon gone. So we know that the Ethiopians didn't have the ark, and moreover, Josiah kept a Passover unto the Elohim in Jerusalem, and they killed the Passover on the 14th day of the first month. And he set the priests in their charges and encouraged them to the service of the house of the Elohim, and said unto the Levites that taught all Israel, which were holy unto the Elohim, put the holy ark in the house which Solomon the son of David, king of Israel, did build. It shall not be a burden upon your shoulders. Now serve the Elohim your Yah and his people. You see what I'm saying? So we know them Ethiopians didn't have that ark. Okay, the people who we abandoned our heritage to, the Sephardi Jews, are Babylonian scribes responsible for the whole Western civilization history. And when we abandoned our history to them, our history became hidden. You see what I'm saying? Our history became hidden. And then because our history became hidden and nobody knew what happened to the Israelites, or that nobody had a thought of what happened to the Israelites that went into Africa to do the Egyptian religion, that false history was created after that. And then that's the history that's been ruling the world. And that history has made everybody a Hebrew that's not a Hebrew. You see, everybody that's recognized as an Israelite in history today, before we come into our Israelite history, are not Israelite history, are not Israelites, because their history don't match prophecy. The Creator said that our history will be blotted out. That means the Hebrews wouldn't know who they were. And then here it is, some folks walking around for all this time saying that they the Israelites, and they ain't never lost their heritage. So they ain't the Israelites. And that's why come their history don't match the curses. Okay, we abandon our heritage to them Babylonian scribes, and then they hid the history. You know what I'm saying? They hid our history, plain and simple as that. They hid our history. Plain and simple as that. Them folks hid our history. And now we're coming back into knowledge, man, of who we are. And, we putting our history back together. We're putting our history back together. That's Prophet Joshua. After him, we start going down the hill. We only recovered doing Samuel and Saul and King David time. That was like just 130 years combined. 130 years we did the covenant, and then Solomon come on and it was over with. Judges, man, we stayed in bondage in the whole judge time. You know what I'm saying? The whole judge time we stayed in bondage, and even the tribe was turned out. You know what I'm saying? Turned into some gay folks. One tribe was turned into some gay folks. That's gonna be the tribe of Benjamin. Them Amorites turned them out. That's why we were supposed to get rid of that Amorite culture. It wouldn't be no gay stuff around today if we had got rid of it. And you know, the first Samuel, you know, we was rolling. You know, we was doing the covenant. We was doing the covenant. You know what I'm saying? And then when Samuel and then King David come on. You know what I'm saying? Around about that time, Saul had come on, and then King David. You know, all right, man. First Kings. You know what I'm saying? Gonna be the kings of Israel history. Second King is gonna mostly cover tribal Judah history. You know, that's gonna be all the way from 853 to 586. That's when Prophet Jeremiah went in back into Africa after chasing us into Africa. How he went back to the promised land after chasing us into Africa, and that'll be the end of the Hebrews history. Because we never come back out, man, to be reunited. You know what I'm saying, with the exile. You know, we never come back out, man, to be reunited with the exiles when the exiles come back from Babylon. Obadiah. You know what I'm saying? That's the prophet Obadiah tell you about them Edomites taking on our land. And sure enough, man, if his prophecy didn't come to pass, you know, his prophecy come to pass. You know, he was 118 years after King David and 78 years after King Solomon. That's Prophet Obadiah. You know, that's when them Edomites started to act up on us. You know, and one of the tribe of Judah had lost its ability to control them Edomites. You know, this Prophet Joel, this 98 years after the kingdom split. Alright. Alright, that's gonna be Amos. 205 years after King David, 165 years after Solomon. He was in Israel 44 years before the Assyrians. That's all right. Then we got Jonah. Jonah went to Assyria and tried to get them to stop kicking it with Ashkenazi. You know, with Ashkenazi, kicking it with the Ashkenazi folks, and they wouldn't listen. And Ashkenazi ended up destroying Assyria. All right. I'll say it's 31 years before the Assyrian captivity. And it's going to be when Prophet Isaiah come on. That's the main prophet, boy. He laid out. And he even tell you what happened to the exiles and how they would be destroyed and stuff. I got that in the video, you know. And then that's the prophet Mick. That's 13 years before the Assyrians pull up. And that's Prophet Nahum. He would tell the destruction of Assyria because of the little dirt that they did and how they come in and took them 3 tribes. And you know what I'm saying? It was over with for Assyria because Ashkenazi came in and destroyed them under the name Scythians. I got a video going in that. And then we get Zephaniah. You know what I'm saying? It was about over for us. Babylon was on the way. Babylon was on the way. And then that's the prophet Jeremiah. And then that's when we would go into Africa and leave our history to them Babylonian scribes. You see, and when Jeremiah was giving us the warning to stop and straighten up, man, it was a punishment part. And that's the prophet Habakkuk. He told Ashkenazi to come on in on them horses. And it was over with for us. He called them and they destroyed us. You know what I'm saying? Just the prophet that made us all one when we went to Babylon. You know what I'm saying? Taking to Babylon and made us one people. You know what I'm saying? And then you get the prophet Haggai, Zechariah, Ezra, Esther, Nehemiah. And the book of Malachi. You know what I'm saying? It was over. Greeks show up, kill the exiles off real fast. 332 BC. You know what I'm saying? And then our history, you know, stay blank.
Stay blank until the transatlantic slave trade started, and then them folks kidnapped us, and here we is now. You see, the Babylonian scribes ain't run the history down like this. They ain't run the history down like this. They want to make you think that, the Hebrews, 10 tribes was taken during the Syrian time, and that they all ran to Europe, and that the European folks represent them. But that's false, because I show you how all the tribes ran into Africa during the Babylonian wars to say that we was going to do the Egyptian religion. That we was going to do the Egyptian religion. And then all the people, both small and great, and the captains of the armies arose and came to Egypt, for they was afraid of the Chaldeans. We never returned out of Africa after running there during the Babylonian wars. And it wasn't recorded, because we didn't take no scribes in there to record a covenant that we wasn't doing. It ain't make no sense for no Hebrew scribes to come into Africa to record our history when we said that we was going to do the Egyptian religion. The other folks the Egyptians was in control of their religion, so we wouldn't have no control over it, so we couldn't have no scribes there to record us. So our history became blank. It became blank until the transatlantic slave trade started, and how we was taken here, and how we done fulfilled the prophecies, and how we trying to wake up and gain control over our heritage, so we don't be destroyed by these folks. Because if we keep going in the system that they set up, it's designed to destroy us, so it'll never be nobody competing for the Israelite heritage. You see, if they knock us off and keep us down, then we can't say that we the Hebrews, because we, be all messed up. So we have to know what happened to us and what happened truthfully, so we can regain our heritage, which is regaining our strength. We got to praise the Creator more than anything, and we can't believe them Babylonian scribes on nothing, on none of their history. You can't believe them folks on none of their history. All their history is a lie. If they ain't saying that the Hebrews went into Africa during the Babylonian wars and broke covenant then and stayed unto our enslavement, then they telling a lie. They telling a lie. Shalom. This is a message from the Israelite Brotherhood. I pray that this history done did you Hebrews some good. Shalom. This is Israel ben Israel for the Israelite Brotherhood.